Continuous growth, the nation's infrastructure is on its way to becoming an economic powerhouse. With high budgets and vast resources spread across the archipelago, Indonesia has come a long way in bridging the gap between over 17,000 islands. Metro Globe's Audrey Widodo has more on this story.
Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous nation, with over 270 million people spread across the archipelago of over 17,000 islands. With a growing economy and a GDP placing the nation in the top 15 largest economies in the world in 2022, Indonesia's recent infrastructure boom goes hand in hand with the country's economic trajectory. To support Indonesia's economic growth, the Indonesian President Joko Widodo's government has worked to ensure equal infrastructure developments not only in Java but all across the nation's islands.
Infrastructure is very important also to distribute economic development. For example, in the past 5 to 7 years, the government, boost infrastructure development. So we can see that it's not only the infrastructure in Java that have been built, but we can also see that the outer islands, they can also experience massive change in terms of infrastructure development. And because we are in Indonesia is an archipelago country, it is also very important to build infrastructure, especially maritime infrastructure, to reduce logistic costs.
The Indonesian government's national strategic projects aims to improve logistic operations, market accessibility, supply chain, transportation, irrigation, and telecommunications across Indonesia to achieve the fourth stage of the National Long-Term Development Goals by 2025. Over the last 5 years, the National Strategic Projects has completed 128 projects spanning across all over Indonesia's major islands: Sumatra, Java, Kalimantan, Nusa Tenggara, Papua, Sulawesi, and Maluku, with the cost totaling over 716.5 trillion rupiah, or $48.5 billion. Meanwhile, the national strategic priority projects completed have mainly centered on building highways in Sumatra, as well as drinking water supply systems and railways. On a national scale, the Pelaparing broadband project was completed to serve the country, with a 36,000-kilometer fiber optic network that distributes broadband access to all the major islands, and is helping boost Indonesia's digital economy, which is now considered the largest in Southeast Asia. Despite rapid growth in Indonesia's digital economy, the agricultural industry contributes about 14% of the nation's GDP, employing 1/3 of the country's workforce, which is why infrastructure developments in the agricultural industry, such as improved irrigation, dams, roads, electricity, and internet connectivity, have benefited local farmers and allowed access to more markets and financial opportunities.
Yeah, the infrastructure is very important. For instance, in a small level, that the quality of the road in the village level can help a lot of the farmers getting higher bidding price for their products and will be closer to the market, whether it's a traditional market, modern market. So building infrastructure means cutting costs of the logistic. And the second one is Indonesia is a very huge population, and in the separate islands, we have more than 17,000 islands in Indonesia. So infrastructure is very important to connecting Javanese community, Javanese business with the eastern part of Indonesia, for instance.
Another one of Indonesia's national strategic projects is the Trans-Java Toll Road, which connects the 5 provinces across Java. And astonishingly, prior to its completion, Indonesians previously only relied on the Pantura Road that was built in the 1800s by the Dutch, making it over 200 years old. But now, thanks to the Trans-Java Toll Road, travel, logistics, and transporting goods across Java is much more effective and cost-efficient. Despite the current global economic instabilities and challenges posed by the pandemic, Indonesia's state budget is still in surplus. This means that the government can still continue to fund the development of infrastructure within the National Strategic Projects list. During the annual financial note, the Indonesian Finance Minister, Sri Mulyani, has increased Indonesia's 2023 infrastructure budget up to 392 trillion rupiah, higher than this year's 363 trillion rupiah, but lower than 2021.
kemudian belanja infrastruktur yang masih menjadi prioritas nasional. Instruksi Bapak Presiden sebelumnya adalah untuk menyelesaikan proyek, jadi jangan sampai ada proyek baru yang kemudian tidak selesai pada akhir tahun atau tahun 2024, dan untuk mendukung tahapan pemilu.
Over 50% of the total population in Indonesia live in urbanized areas, and Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, is considered a global city with one of the fastest growing economies. Over 37 years, population growth in Jakarta has grown from 7 million in 1985 to over 11 million in 2022. This 57% increase contributes to Indonesia's higher standard of living, but also increases population density in the metropolitan areas. With more people living closer in proximity and the growing need for interconnectivity with Indonesia's outermost islands, the nation's infrastructure must continue to be developed to accommodate growing demand and be able to support the country's economic growth. Audrey Widodo for Metro Globe Network.